All right, we're going to do an example of a confidence interval of a proportion. We're going to assume that we have a box with a lot of marbles. So many marbles that we can take marbles out, 100 marbles out, and it doesn't, each time I take it out, it doesn't really change the proportion of the number of types of marbles in the box. So this has red and blue marbles. So I take out a marble and there's just so many marbles, it doesn't really change the proportion. And when 100 were taken out, or you can say 100 with replacement, it's found that 64 out of the 100 are red. And we're going to find a 95% confidence interval for that. Okay, so the sample proportion is written as p hat, and that's x over n. And so that's 64 out of 100, and that's 0.64. And to do this problem, what we're going to use is a TI-83 calculator. So it's sort of a quick way of doing this without as much explanation as I've done in other videos. So I have did I say TI-83 or T-84? I'm going to use TI-83. So I'm going to look at stat, test, and A1 prop Z int. So those are the keys you press. And what that's going to show you is a screen which says 1 prop Z int. And what you're going to enter there is for X 64, N 100, and then C level, which is confidence level. You're going to put in 0.95, and then you'll see calculate. And then we'll press enter. Okay, so let me show you what that's going to look like. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like on the calculator. So, and I put all those things in there, and then you go down here to calculate, and then when you do that, it gives you the answer of the question is, what's the confidence interval? This is the confidence interval. So the confidence interval this is a 95% confidence interval, and let's look at this first group of numbers here. Let's look at these numbers. What this is saying, what this is interval notation. Interval notation gives two numbers. The one on the left, the number on the left is always less than the number on the right, and they have parentheses. And so what this is an interval on the number line, where the left one is this 0.545, etc., and the right endpoint is this 0.73408. And then it gives you the proportion, which we already found, and then n, the number of marbles in our sample. And so then I'm going to write down what it says. We see, I'm just going to write down what I saw on that calc on there. 1 prop Z int 0.54592.73408, and then it's going to have p hat equals 0.64 and n equals 100. So if I were to put this on a number line, the number line looks like this. I'm going to round first of all. It's going to have 0.55. That's going to be our left endpoint, and our right endpoint is going to be 0.73, and in the middle is 0.64. And we're not going to include the endpoints. That's what the round brackets mean, but actually I don't think it matters if we were to include the endpoints. Now, we can turn these into percents. So I'm going to also talk about the margin of error. The margin of error is going to be found by taking the right endpoint from our confidence interval and subtracting p hat. So this is going to give us 0.73 minus 0.64, and that makes 0.09. Now, by the way, this So our margin of error is 0.09. Now, it might be more comfortable for some people to put these all in percents. So here we have 55%, 64%, 73%, and then our margin of error is 9%. Okay, so that's our confidence interval. So let's write down this, let's write down a little sentence for our results. So that at least the TI-83 calculator didn't give us a confidence interval. We had to do it ourselves. So how do we do that? We take the right endpoint on our confidence interval. So this is our confidence interval. So the confidence interval is an interval on the number line. It's probably mathematically better to write it in terms of real numbers and rather percents. But the confidence interval is a interval on the number line. In the middle is our p hat. And then we have these left and right endpoints. And this guy here is the margin of error. The margin of error is the distance between the p hat and the right endpoint. So let's go ahead and write these in this results in a nice sentence, which is as follows. We are 95% confident that the proportion of red marbles in the box is between 55% and 73%. Now this is what we could have determined just by using the TI-83 calculator right off the screen. It's true, I converted it into a percent and I rounded to the 1% place. So I did some rounding also. But we can also write this information as follows. The proportion of red marbles in the box is 64% plus or minus 99% with a 95% level of confidence. Now, on some other videos, I've shown actually the math behind this confidence interval, and what we saw is that this margin of error can be made smaller by increasing the sample size, because that 9% sounds pretty wide. You know, you might want it between, I don't know, you might want a smaller, you might want a little smaller. Or if you want that number, margin of error smaller, what you can actually do is you can reduce the amount of confidence. So you take away the confidence, like maybe it would be all right with, maybe be set up for 90% confidence interval. So I don't know. Now I'm sort of okay. I was going to start doing that. I was going to see what it is if you have a 90% confidence interval. But okay, let's just stop there then.